What is going on, guys? It's Modded Warfare here. Welcome back to another PS3 tutorial. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you guys how to fully jailbreak your PlayStation 3 on firmware version 4.86. But you can also follow this for 4.82, 4.83, 4.84, and 4.85. So if you're on any of those system software versions, you can follow this tutorial. To find your system software version, you can just head to the system settings and then scroll down to system information. And as you can see, it says I'm on 4.86. So if you're on any of those firmware versions, you can follow this tutorial. If a future update comes out for, say, 4.87 or 4.88, and the process is still the same, then I will update the title to show that this will still work with those higher firmware versions as well. And then you can follow this video even if you're on a higher firmware version than 4.86. like 4.87 or 4.88. But the process might change, in which case I'll have to make a new video, but I'll let you guys know in the comments and in the description. So if that's the case. And also, this tutorial is part of a jailbreak tutorial series. So once you finish this episode and you have your PS3 jailbroken, you can then follow the other videos in the series. There's a link in the description to the playlist, which has all the episodes on there. I cover things like how to install Webman mod and Multiman, which are very useful homebrew tools, install games, DLC and updates, how to install backwards compatible games like PS2, PS1 and PSP games, and also emulators like RetroArch and, Linux, running Linux on the PS3. All of those videos are in the playlist, so check that out once you have your PS3 jailbroken. So the first thing you need to know is that not all PS3s are jailbreakable. So the old fat model PS3s, the George Foreman grill PS3s, they are jailbreakable. So you can install custom firmware on a fat model PS3. The Super Slims are not jailbreakable, so you can't install custom firmware on a Super Slim 3000 or 4000 series. They are off the table. The regular Slims, the vast majority of them are jailbreakable, but there are a couple of the newer models of the original Slims that are not jailbreakable. Now, there is a method of finding out whether or not your Slim is jailbreakable or not. I'll be showing that in just a minute, but that is how things stack up here. So there is another exploit called the hen exploit, which gives you a lot of similar functionality to custom firmware, to a full jailbreak, but it's not a full jailbreak, it's a tethered exploit. It works on all the PS3s though, so if you have a PS3 Super Slim or a PS3 Slim that isn't jailbreakable, you can't install the custom firmware on it, then I'd recommend checking out that exploit, because even though it's not as good as a custom firmware, it still gives you a lot of similar functionality. But in this particular video, we're covering the full jailbreak, the full custom firmware. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is head over to the network settings and go down to internet search, and then go to this website here, http://ps3exploit.com. And that should take you to the site, or it'll take you to a Google search, and then it should be the top one here, ps3exploit.com. Click OK to the message. Go up to the flash dumper 4.82-4.86, select that option, and then say yes to run the plugin. There we go, exploit initialization complete, toolset ready. Then just head to the flash memory manager. You may get an error here, but what should happen, hopefully, yeah, so I get this error. But as you can see, it should say that the custom firmware compatible PS3 is ticked. So it is a compatible PS3. If you have a tick here, then you can follow the tutorial. Your PS3 is jailbreakable. If you have a X, then it is not compatible and you'll have to do the hen exploit instead. At this point, what we're going to do is press the triangle button and go down to bookmarks, my bookmarks, and add this page to your bookmarks. Then press triangle again, go to tools, go down to home page and select use a blank page, click OK. And then what you want to do is just close out of the browser and restart your PS3. So turn off the system and turn it back on. Okay, and when you boot back up, go back into network, internet browser. That should take you to the blank page. Then press triangle, go to tools, go down to delete cookies and say yes. Then triangle again, tools, delete search history. And then again, triangle, tools, and delete the cache. And then triangle, tools, and delete the authentication information. And then you can X out of the browser one more time. Now, the reason we did all of that is to essentially make the browser as lightweight as possible so it's not being weighed down by cookies and other cache data and stuff that could slow it down. Because when we're going to be reading or writing the flash file from the console, we want the browser to be running as lightweight as possible, because then it's less likely to encounter errors when we do that. What we need to do now is go back onto the internet browser and then press triangle and then go to bookmarks and my bookmarks and select the tool set that we bookmarked before. Oh, again, just say yes to this message. So the reason we rebooted the system was so that we can clear the cookies, because you don't want to clear cookies after you've visited this website, because this website stores a lot of your console information in cookies. So if you remove the cookies while you're like halfway through doing something in this website, then it could completely screw it up. So what you want to do is reboot the system, then clear your cookies, and then load the PS3 toolset website after the cookies have already been cleared. That way it's not going to interfere with anything and you still have the browser running as lightweight as possible to get less errors. So what we're going to do is we're going to now head into the flash memory manager again. And as you can see, I didn't get any errors this time because I cleared all of my cookies and other information that I was getting before. So as you can see, it says a custom firmware compatible PS3. Yes. So the first thing we're going to do is head over to our computer. And you want to go ahead and grab a USB drive. And you want to make sure that that USB drive is formatted in FAT32 format. So the file system, when you go to properties, should be FAT32. If it's anything else, then it will not be detectable by the PS3. So you'll have to reformat it in FAT32 format. Sometimes you can do that by just right-clicking and going to Format, and then selecting FAT32 as the file system. But if the USB drive is too large, you will not have FAT32 as an option. So in that case, you'll need to use an external tool. I'll link this one in the description, Aomi Partition Assistant. You can use this to format any drive in FAT32. It's got many, many other functions as well. It's completely free. So here's the USB drive here. You just right click, go to Format Partition, and you select FAT32, give it a label, and then click OK. And then you have to click Apply in the top left to actually start the format. And then that will format it in FAT32 format. So once you have it in FAT32 format, you can then unplug the USB drive and plug it into your PS3. Make sure you plug it into the rightmost USB port in the front of the console. That is the USB port that you should be using. If that USB port is broken in your PS3, then you can use another USB port, but it's recommended to use the front rightmost USB port in the console. Okay, so once you have the USB drive plugged in, we're going to go to Flash Memory and just select that with the X button, and then select the Save Flash Memory Backup. And then it'll ask you where you want to store it. So if you don't have a USB drive, you can store it on the hard drive, but then you won't be able to actually check to make sure that it backed up successfully on the hard drive until you've jailbroken the PS3, which is by then is kind of too late for it to be useful. So it's recommended you have a USB drive. So select the USB drive, which is USB 000, or it'll be, if you have it plugged into a different slot, it might be USB 006 or 001. So we're going to select our dev_USB, select save, and then wait for it to extract and dump the flash file to the USB drive. We're taking a backup of the flash, and if anything goes wrong in the jailbreaking process that causes the console to be bricked, so broken, so the console doesn't work anymore, as long as you have that backup file, then you can use a hardware flasher to flash that back onto the console and get the console working again. So in a worst case scenario, if the console ever gets broken by doing this jailbreak process, at least you will have that backup file so that you can restore the console and get it working again. Because if you don't have that backup file, then that console is as useful as a brick, essentially. So now we're done. We can go to the log, just make sure everything's good. So it was all successful. And now we can go ahead and close. We can unplug our USB drive now and plug it back into our computer. Okay, so now we can go back to our USB, take our dump file and copy that out to our desktop. And I would recommend renaming it to underscore orig or underscore original, something like that. Next, we're going to get a program called PS3 Checker. So PS3 Checker is part of PS3 Tools. So you can just go to the website, it'll be linked in the description, clone or download and download it as a zip file. And you will also need Python installed for it to work, and it needs to be Python version 2.7.16 or 17. Basically 2.7. It needs to be Python version 2.7, not version 3. So make sure it is version 2.7 that you're downloading. Just download it here, install it, and then PS3 Checker will work. So then once you download PS3 Tools, if you open it up, go into PS3 Tools Master, and then take PS3 Checker and just drag that out to your desktop. And then we can open PS3 Checker, drag our dump underscore orig into PS3 Checker folder, and then drag and drop the dump.hex file over the drag and drop your dump here.bat and let go. And that will run all of the checks to make sure that we're good. As you can see, I have 0 dangers and 0 warnings. That's what you want. You want 0 dangers and 0 warnings. Sometimes you might get 1 warning and it might be okay. It depends on what the warning is. But generally, you want to have no dangers, no warnings. That means you have a perfect backup of your flash. And that means if anything goes wrong, then you can restore it and get the console working again. But hopefully nothing will go wrong. But just in case, you want to have that backup there. So we've verified the backup is all good. So now we can continue with the jailbreak process. Let's go back onto our USB drive and delete that dump.hex file that's in there right now. And then we'll unplug our USB and plug it back into our PS3. Make sure you have obviously copied that dump.hex file somewhere on your computer for safekeeping before you delete it off the USB drive. Okay, so now that we've done that, I would recommend, again, just closing the browser and reopening it before we start the next process. So we go back onto the internet browser again, and we go back to our bookmarks, my bookmarks, and PS3 toolset. What we're going to do now is go to the flash memory patch and select that. And then what we want to do is download the patch file, and then that should automatically detect your USB drive. So we're going to select that as our destination. In fact, yeah, we'll just select it here, click OK to start. And then it should automatically detect the correct patch file for your system, depending on what firmware version you're on. If you're on, 4.82 to 4.86, or in the future, if there's a 4.87 or 4.88, it should detect that and automatically start downloading it. There we go, download complete. So now we can go back to flash memory patch. And now we can do load patch from file. And then go back to our USB, which is dev underscore USB. Select the arrow next to it to expand. Then select the patch right here. And then click load. And that should load it up. There we go, done. Go to log, just check that it was completed successfully with no issues. And then we can close. And now go back to flash memory patch and apply the loaded patch and say yes. And now we wait. Don't touch anything while you're doing this. This is kind of the dodgiest step of the whole process because we are patching we're patching the flash right now. We're writing to the flash. If anything goes wrong during this step, this is where your console could get bricked, broken completely. So it's kind of, cross your fingers and hope that everything goes successfully. Again, if you've cleared all of your website data and stuff before we started this, then you're less likely to encounter any errors when doing this. That's why I went over all that in the beginning. Setting your home page to a blank page, putting this page as a bookmark, clearing all of your browsing history, your website data, clearing your cookies before you initially go on the website, and all of that stuff minimizes your chance that you're going to run into errors during this process. But it can still happen, so fingers crossed that everything goes successfully here. As you can see, patch has been applied successfully. Let's have a look at the log, just make sure that there was nothing dodgy going on. Completed without errors, that's what you want to see. Patch completed without errors, patch operation completed without errors. So we seem to be good there. Click OK, close. And then once again, we're going to exit, close out of the browser. Okay, so now that we've done that, I recommend rebooting the PS3. So switch your PS3 off, switch it back on again. Okay, and once you're back after the reboot, if we go back into our internet browser, and I'm going to go ahead and clear my cookies and website data and all of that stuff again, just to be sure. Since I did a reboot, it's safe for me to now clear my cookies. And search history, delete the cache, and the authentication information. And then we'll go back, reopen the browser again, just to make it run as lightweight as possible. Because what we're wanting to do now is dump the flash again to make sure that the patch was successful. So in order to check, we're going to go back to our bookmarks and run the toolset once again. And what you should notice this time, now that we've done the patch, is after this message disappears, so the custom syscalls, before it said no, there was no custom syscalls, now it says Cobra. So that is promising, but we need to make sure that there were no errors during the patch. So we need to make sure, just even though it looks like everything is gone okay, you know, there could still be some corruption in the flash or some, you know, some warnings that could cause problems later on. So we just want to make sure that everything went successfully. So to do that, we're going to dump the flash again. So we're going to go to flash memory, save flash memory backup, select our USB drive again, and save. And it's going to go ahead and do what it did before. But this dump is different to the one we did before, because the one we did before was the pre-patched flash. The one we're doing now is the after-patch flash. So these are different flash files, and it's recommended just to have a backup of both of them, the pre-patched and the after-patched flash. But we also want to check the after-patched flash to make sure that it was patched successfully. Okay, so we can go ahead and close. And that's all we need to do now in the PS3 toolset. So you can close out of it, and we shouldn't need to use it again now. So now we're going to unplug our USB, plug it back into the computer. And on the computer here, what we're going to do is load up our USB, take our dump.hex and rename it dump_patched, just so we differentiate it between the original one. And then we're going to open up PS3 checker again, and we're going to drag the dump_patched into PS3 checker folder, and then drag and drop it over the drag and drop your dump here. And then that's going to do its checks. And as you can see, this is what we want. Once again, we've got 0 dangers and 0 warnings. That's what you want. If you have that, you're all good to go. Okay, so at this point, the last step we need to do now is install some custom firmware. So if you head to rebug.me, this is the only custom firmware that's available right now as of when I'm recording this video. If there's more, I'll put it in the description. In fact, if I go to PSX Place, this is where you'll find other custom firmwares when they release. So if we go to here and we go to home custom firmware, so right here you'll find other custom firmwares when they release, but as I said, Rebug Lite is the only one that's available right now. I'll put this link in the description so that if there's any other custom firmwares that come out in the future, then you can download them from here. So Rebug Lite. So if we select Rebug 4.86.1, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and you will find the Lite edition right here, 4.86.1. Just download it. If you're watching this in the future and you're doing this on like a higher firmware version, like 4.87 or 4.88, then if there's a 4.87 or 4.88 version of Rebug Lite, then you would just download that. In this case, it's 4.86.1. So once I have it downloaded, it comes as a zip file. Inside that zip file is a text file. If you open that text file, you will find a download link that you just paste into your browser, and that will download you the actual update file for the custom firmware. If it doesn't download, if you just get a bunch of text, then use a different web browser to download it, or use a download manager like EagleGet or Internet Download Manager, and you'll get the PUP file. So then we're going to go onto our USB. We're going to just delete these two files here. Make sure you've backed up, you know, your original and your patched hex file. You know, put it somewhere safe on your computer that you're not going to delete. You know, back up that folder, put it in a zip archive or something, back it up somewhere where you're not going to delete it, because if you ever brick your system in future, those will come very in handy to fix your PS3 and get it working again. And then we're going to create a folder in the root of the USB drive called PS3 in uppercase. And then in that folder, we're going to create another folder called update, also in uppercase. And then in that folder, we're going to copy the custom firmware pup file. Okay, and finally, you just want to verify again that this pup file has not been corrupted when you downloaded it, because if you install a corrupted custom firmware, then that's going to break your system as well. So what you can do is rename the file, and the MD5 hash is actually here as part of the file name. So if you just copy that MD5 hash and then open up onlinemd5.com in your internet browser, and what you want to do is just take the file from the USB drive and drag it into onlinemd5.com. That'll calculate the hash of the file so that you can confirm it's not been corrupted. And there you go, it gives you the hash, and then paste in the hash that you copied from the file name underneath. And if you get the green tick, then that means that the hashes are the same and the file has not been corrupted when you downloaded it. So what we can do then is rename it and get rid of all of this. So it's just called ps3 updat.pup. That is what it needs to be named. So you have the USB drive, then you have a PS3 folder, an update folder, and then the pup file inside the update folder called ps3 updat.pup in uppercase characters. All of that needs to be exact, otherwise the update will not appear on your PS3. So what we're going to do now is unplug our USB and plug it into the PS3 for the last time. And now we can go over to System Update, Update via Storage Media. And there we go, we've got 4.86.1 Rebug Lite. We're going to say OK and accept, start, and that should start doing the system update. If it doesn't work, if the update doesn't work through this system update here on the PS3 home screen, if you boot the console into recovery mode, and the way to do that is you turn the PS3 off, then you hold down the power button and you keep it held down until you hear it beep twice. It might turn off the first time you do this. If it does, just do it again. Second time, it should boot you into recovery mode. And then in recovery mode, you have to connect your PS3 controller via a wired charge cable to the PS3. And then you press the PS button. That will take you into the recovery options. Option number 6 is system update. Select that option and then just go through the normal system update. Now, hopefully for the majority of you guys, it will just work in the PS3 home screen and you won't have to use recovery mode. But if you are running into errors, then you can use recovery mode instead, and you have a better chance of it working in recovery mode. It should prevent a lot of those errors. So there we go. We're now installing the custom firmware. Okay, and here we go. We're rebooted. It now says rebug, and we are good. We now have a jailbroken PS3. Congratulations. And just to show that we are definitely 100% jailbroken, if we go to game, we now have the package manager, and we can go and install package files. PS3 system storage, rebug toolbox will be automatically there for you if you've installed the rebug Lite custom firmware, and we can select that. This is a homebrew application. As you can see, it's installed and I should be able to run it. If I tried to run this on original firmware, stock firmware, then I would just get an error code and it wouldn't run. And as you can see, it is running. System information, we are good. 4.86. And yeah, there we go. So that is basically it, guys. That is how you fully jailbreak a PlayStation 3 on firmware version 4.86. Remember, you can do this on 4.82, 4.83, 4.84, 4.85, and 4.86. And if you're on an older firmware, you know, just update your PS3 to 4.86 and then follow the tutorial from there. If a new PS3 update comes out in future, a 4.87, a 4.88, I will, you know, if the process doesn't change, then I will just update the title to say that it supports 4.87 and 4.88 in future, so that you guys know that you can follow this tutorial on those higher versions if that is the case. You know, you never know, something might change and the process might be different, in which case I'll have to make another tutorial. Also, this jailbreak tutorial is part of a jailbreak tutorial series that I have on my channel. So I have a bunch of other tutorials showing you how to make the most out of your jailbroken PS3. So if you just go into the description, there's a link at the top of the description to the playlist, which will give you all the other videos that I've made on the PS3 so far. You can just follow them episode to episode. So episode 2, the next one after this, shows you how to install Webman and Multiman, which are very useful applications. And then episode 3 shows you how to install games and DLC and updates. And, you know, episode 4 shows you how to install backwards compatible games like PS2, PS1, and PSP games. All different episodes, I show how to install Linux, how to downgrade your firmware, how to update your custom firmware. Lots of other videos in the series, so check the link down in the description. It'll also be linked at the end of the video here. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next one.